And welcome back, rugby fans, to Rugby411. As always, I'm your host. My name is Joshua Shibata, and this is our Week 11 power rankings for the 2025 MLR season. Man, there is a lot of movement going around this week. It's been crazy, to say the least. This is actually going to lead into kind of a quiet Storm Week. Storm Week! I promise that's going to be the last that we use of that graphic for at least right now. Yeah, it's definitely, I feel a lot of the MLR teams have been dealing with the Storm Week, all these games coming in at a short amount of time, but this coming week, number 12, we'll talk about in the preview video, is kind of going to be the lull before the continuation of the storm. But man, we've already seen quite a bit of the ramifications. Lots of injuries, a lot of what we might consider upsets, just because of the way that the teams have been structured to handle a storm week. So because of that, there is a lot of movement going on in this power ranking. So again, real quick, if you've never seen my power ranking video, this is all determined by what happens on the pitch, who you play against, where you play the team. If you are a lower ranked team defeating an upper ranked team, obviously you will jump higher. If you're a higher ranked team beating down on a lower ranked team, you probably won't move much unless it's a really impressive one. There has been a lot of instances this season where a lot of high ranking teams kind of look really disappointing going against a lower ranked team. I don't know if it's just to preserve, kind of taking the foot off the gas, maybe don't want to give too much of a beatdown, but there is definitely a lot of that going on so far this season. With that being said, let's start talking about what was week 11. And sadly, the one team, again, where I felt that they had a chance to possibly win or at least get their first win of the season, alas, they are still looking for it. That is Anthem Rugby Carolina, still sitting winless in 11th place. They fall short to Miami 5-31. I'll be honest, I don't think Miami looked as strong, but to be honest, neither did Anthem. Anthem had a lot of their more veteran players back in the lineup. Sam Gala was back. Connor Mooneyham was back. It just, I don't know what's going on with the team. It just feels like a lot of the games that they're playing where they should be winning, the other team kind of gets the memo and they don't want to lose. I think, to be honest, all the teams have that fear. They don't want to be the team to give Anthem their very first win. And so I feel a lot of teams where that win could potentially be there, they take it away because they just don't want that. And now, Miami kind of was the last hope I felt for Anthem to get a win. And they get a bye finally. And then they have a game against RFCLA, which, I'm not going to be a homer about this. I honestly believe RFCLA will beat Anthem. It's in LA. And then they get a game against Old Glory. Old Glory might be their last hope of a win this season, because then after that, it's a combination of games against New England, the whole Western Conference, Utah, Houston, Seattle, San Diego. The Western Conference is pretty strong. I just don't see Anthem getting a win there. So, I predicted Anthem to get 2 wins in the season, or 2 wins and then 4. Now I honestly don't know if they'll get 1. I don't know. And to be honest, and I might make a video on this, the whole process of Anthem was to build young, up-and-coming U.S. American Eagle players out of a team that would be predominantly domestic-based players, USA-born raised players, to compete on not an international level per se, but against international level talent amongst the rest of Major League Rugby, in the hopes that they would develop into a pretty strong team. It's looking almost that they're taking a step backwards now, and we might have to analyze that at the end of the season. But again, there's still a lot of games left, and hey, anything can happen, so we'll see. But Anthem, unfortunately, falling short to Miami. 5-31. We'll go a little bit more on the game when we talk about Miami because Miami's the one that really did the most stuff. But now number 10, not moving up spot, is RFCLA. Unfortunately, dropping a heartbreaker of a game against San Diego in the Cali Cup. Man, you know, I've been racking my brain as an RFCLA fan, but also just someone that's really been watching the team and why RFCLA has kind of been losing some of these games. And more that I talk to players, and this is just an assumption, and I'll talk about it more when I do my notes from the clubhouse video. That's pretty much a RFCLA centric video. I feel RFCLA is a team that's built primarily on speed and fast scoring offense. The defense is great, but the defense is also a bend but don't break defense. I don't feel though, and I feel with what the assessment of a lot of the players in RFCLA, and this is kind of where it leads to the assumption, I don't feel the team is built to be a brutal, pounding team, meaning a very hard hitting juggernaut of a team. The game RFCLA plays is more of an outpace your opponent. The thing is, I feel, and a lot of the players on RFCLA kind of astute to this, is that most of the teams in the league, especially in the Western Conference, are more of a physical, hard hitting style of play. And I just feel that that style really wears down on RFCLA, which is why by the second half, and it's usually always the second half, RFCLA just comes short. To the point where some games they really fall apart. I just feel that they get beaten down so much that it's just they just don't have enough left in it. I may be wrong, but it seems like that's the formula and the path that all these RFCLA losses follow. This game is no different. RFCLA actually tied up with San Diego at the half, and then by the second half, though, they just kind of just lost a little bit of luster there, and San Diego just had just enough to get away with the win. Also, what didn't help, again, there are some things that RFCLA really struggle with, and it toots again to this physical defensive style. RFCLA's maul defense is horrendous. It's almost a given if you're an opposing team of RFCLA, if you can maul near the try zone, near the try line, you're going to score because RFCLA has no defense to it. RFCLA's scrum has also been pretty weak so far this season as well. All those very physical aspects of the game. And they're very important parts of the game. They're very integral set pieces of rugby. And RCLA just comes up short with it. And I feel the strategy is they'll make up with it by scoring a lot of fast scoring tries, which RFCLA does that. I mean, they've always been able to catch up with opponents. It's just that sometimes they're not able to catch up quick enough or with enough time left in the game. For example, this one, RFCLA just came short 2 points, just like with New England, also 2 points as well. Granted, they had the opportunity to tie the game. Reese McDonald, not throwing him under the bus, he is phenomenal of a player. And actually, he was kind of making the difference where he was making conversions where Christian Lealifiano, who has been phenomenal for the team, unfortunately, the 2 conversions he had the opportunity to score were misses. Granted, it was a windy day. San Diego's kicker at the time, Lincoln McClutchy, also missed his conversions as well. But Reese came in and made his 2 conversions. But the one point where he could have tied the game with just minutes left in full time, he missed the conversion kick, and that made the difference. Now, again, lots of other things playing into account in this game, but I really feel it's the physicality. Also, to LA hit with a couple of yellow cards as well in this game. It's the discipline. Now, the reffing in this game was a little sus, as the kids like to say. But I am one personally that is never big on blaming the referees or pointing the finger at the refs because that's the human nature of the game. You can't always rely on every call going your way. You just have to play the game where it is. But regardless, RCLA drops a heartbreaker of a game. Back-to-back heartbreakers. They lost to New England by 2. They lost to San Diego by 2 in the Cali Cup game. They have a very, very important game coming up this Friday, which is tomorrow, against Seattle, which, again, if you watch my notes from the clubhouse video, I'm going to go all about how this is almost the make and break point of the season. This game with Seattle. Of course, we'll talk about that a little further down. But RCLA sticks at number 10 with that loss. Dropping down a spot from number 8 to number 9, Old Glory GC, who loses pretty one-sidedly to Houston, 27 to 48. Old Glory was kind of in control of the game at first, but then Houston really kind of opened up the game in the second half. I do gotta give a shout out to Jason Ewok Emery, friend of the podcast and the YouTube video. He was a perfect 5 for 5 off the tee, 12 points in total. But it just wasn't enough in this game. Jameson Fonana Schultz came back from injury. He scored a try in the waning moments, but it just was too little too late. Houston was really, really dominant in this game, and we'll go over more of it when we talk about Houston. But Old Glory sliding down even further down the charts. One time they were as high as 4th, and now all the way down to 9. But that is the nature of the game. And then also sliding down from number 7 to number 8, the Seattle Seawolves, who fall surprisingly to NOLA goal, 44 to 36. This was a shocker of a game, but it doesn't help when you get 2 yellow cards right from the start. Jade Stidling, who was my rookie of the year last year, who was phenomenal for Seattle, wasn't playing much this season because of injury. Finally gets to be on the pitch and he scores right away, but literally seconds after he scores, he gets a yellow card. Seattle gets a second yellow card. They're down 2 men, which allowed NOLA to get 2 tries from Jonah Mau, which we'll talk more about NOLA when we get to NOLA. And then I gotta mention about the penalties here. Seattle had a lot of penalties, 12 penalties in the game compared to NOLA's 7. NOLA didn't have any penalties in the first half, which is pretty phenomenal if you think about it. Also, what kind of hurt in this game is the kicking game, which has been haunting Seattle so far this season. In comparison, Dorian Jones, who's been phenomenal for NOLA since joining the Gold this season, was a perfect 5 for 5 off the tee, 12 points. NOLA overall kicking off the tee was a perfect 7 for 7. Seattle was 2 for 5 overall. Rodney Iona got 2 for 2, but then Eddie Fouché, who had to come in early because Rodney had a pretty big hit on him, was 0 for 3. He scored a try, Eddie, but he was not able to convert that try or any of his conversion kicks. The one that he kicked for his conversion was literally right in front of the post, and it was almost kind of a really odd miss. But those are 6 points that maybe might not have made a difference in a game when you lost by 8. But it would have got you within the bonus point loss, where if you lose by 7, you get a bonus point. And right now, especially with how tight the Western Conference race is, every point is important. The fact that Seattle doesn't get the point leaves them, I believe, 2 points behind LA. So that makes a huge difference, especially going into the all-important game on Friday between LA and Seattle, which, again, talk about in my notes from the Clubhouse episode on the YouTube channel. But Seattle slides once again down to number 8 for number 7. A team that slides down quite a bit. I'm sorry, a team that jumped up a little bit is the San Diego Legion, beating LA in the Cali Cup. I'll be honest with you, true transparency. The movement for San Diego was a combination of the win against LA, which was by the hair of their chest, 2 points, but also with the very competitive loss to Utah, which I will discuss in the second phase of our Storm Week here, because that game was a great game. So that combination of how well they performed against the number 1 team on my rankings and just barely beating LA, which by power ranking standards is not that impressive of a win, if anything. So I did move them a little bit up to number 7. But yeah, they won the Cali Cup. It was a very close game. I'll talk a little bit more when we talk about the Utah game on how good San Diego was in that game. Moving down a spot, down a couple of spots, Chicago, number 3, down to number 6 after their really surprise. I wouldn't say surprising, but just the way that they lost to Utah, who was looking super hot right now. They are the hottest team going on in Major League Rugby, losing to Utah 41 to 31. Um, at first, it was kind of a back and forth game, but then it pretty much became all Utah in this game. Mind you, okay, there you go. First, before we talk about this, I do want to give a shout out to Ames McClellan, who is the third MLR player to reach 100 caps in Major League Rugby, and the second player behind JP Smith to do all 100 with the Utah Warriors with one team. JP Smith, of course, of done with Seattle, and of course, the number one person to reach 100 caps is of course, Dylan the Butcher Fawcett. But not all those games were with Chicago. It has been spread out with Chicago, New York, and his career. So, going over the game, there was a lot of yellow cards in this game. First of all, Nate Osberger got a card nearly at the very beginning for colliding with Joe Hodgson in the air. This, of course, led to Joe Mono, who had a great game, but the first of 3 of his tries. I do also have to mention that Matt Ororu, who is a Canadian Sevens player that has transitioned to Major League Rugby, he took a really bad head knock, the knee to the head that took him out of the game. Of course, we hope that he's doing well. Nate Osberger then, literally after he got back from his yellow card, gets a second yellow card for a very unsafe tackle. And of course, because of the fact that he gets a second yellow card, that turned into a red card. So Chicago down a player for most of the first half and parts of the second half. Though Chicago, with a penalty kick, keeps themselves ahead of Utah at the half. So at the half, Chicago is actually up against Utah and looking pretty good. But then, after the break, it becomes all Utah. And a lot of that is from Joe Mono. So at the half, Chicago was up 31 to 12, thanks to a couple of penalty tries as well. But then after the half, somehow Utah just got that fire in them, and they ended up scoring 29 unanswered points to get ahead of Utah, to get ahead of Chicago by 7 points. And then at the very last second, Joel Hodgson hit a beautiful penalty kick to put the game away, and therefore Utah gets ahead of Chicago by 10 points. Great game by Utah. I don't know what it was in the second half, but they came out guns blazing, and Chicago falls down a couple spots down to number 6, and it really solidified how strong a game Utah had in this one. Then, going to number 5, Miami, as we mentioned before, beating Anthem Rugby Carolina. Not a very impressive win, therefore they stay at number 5. There's no movement for them. We talked about Houston defeating Old Glory DC. They moved up a couple of spots from number 6 to number 4. With the game, Houston, I do have to give a shout out to AJ Alatimu. AJ Alatimu, who has been struggling quite a bit this season, had a hell of a game. 17 points in this game, 1 try, 5 for 7 off the tee. Definitely AJ Alatimu kind of found his groove back, at least in this game. There should be mentioned also, for whatever reason, this entire weekend of rugby, there was a lot of technical difficulties. I don't know if it was something in the air, but at least 3 of the games of Major League Rugby had some sort of technical difficulties. If you watch the women's match against Canada, against Japan, unfortunately the first 10-15 minutes were not aired. So there were a lot of weird technical difficulties going on in all around rugby this weekend. So Houston had one of them as well. So we missed a couple of tries, but Houston very dominant, 27-10 at the half. Again, I should mention also too, Max Schumacher looked pretty good coming in. He got himself a try. Old Glory, like I said, got a last-minute try from Fonana Schultz, but it was a little too late. And Houston, with a dominant performance, 48-27 in this game, goes up a couple spots to number 4. Uh, Moving up a spot to number 3, surprising win by the NOLA Gold over Seattle, 44-36. Again, some of that, of course, leading to the couple yellow cards right at the beginning of the game. And the fact that Eddie Fouché in the kicking game of Seattle has been struggling quite a bit. NOLA's kicking game on the other side has been phenomenal because Dorian Jones, new addition to NOLA, has been solid. He had a great game here, 12 points, 5 for 5 off the tee. NOLA was a perfect 7 for 7. Xavier Mignot, the French player, has returned to NOLA from injury, and he's picked up where he left off, scoring a try in this game. Also, gotta give a shout out to Big Joey Taufuete, former LA Guillotines player, former Seattle player, now with NOLA Gold. He sealed the game with this beautiful heads-up interception that allowed NOLA to walk away with the win, 44-36, as well as keep Seattle out of the bonus point loss potential there in this game. And then New England, the only team that had a bye this weekend, so they stayed at number 2. And then, as mentioned before, Utah looking very dominant in their win over Chicago. Big shout out to Joe Mano. He had a hat trick in this game. Not only did he have a hat trick in this game, he scored his 9th, 10th, and 11th try of the season. He is leading the season. I believe the last time he led the season in tries for Major League Rugby, he had 12, so he's close to that mark. He's one off, and he has 36 tries for all time of his Major League record. That is 4th of all time on the list, just one behind Paula Bellicana, and of course behind the couple from Rickard Hatting, and then Mr. Dominant Dylan Butcher the Fawcett with 62, I believe, is total, so he's still a little off of that. But big shout out to Joey Mano for having a phenomenal game to lead Utah to dominate against Chicago in this game. Now, part 2, there was one game on Wednesday between San Diego and Utah, which was, of course, a very important Western Conference game. It should be mentioned that this is the second game in 5 days between these two teams. Normally, you would play 2 games in maybe the span of 6 or 7 days, so both teams lost at least a day of practice. It didn't affect anything. I mean, it was a high-scoring, fun game to watch. Definitely the game of the week. Utah starts with 2 tries, one from D'Angelo Luila, who, this was shocking, even the commentators were mentioning it, the first try of the season for D'Angelo. But D'Angelo has been so good off the tee. He is the highest scoring point scorer so far this league, I believe, with 80 plus points. He's the first guy to break 80 so far this season. He has been phenomenal. Definitely my player of the year candidate right now. Very similar to Jason Patros for New England when New England won their championship. Utah's looking like the team that might be the Western Conference representative the way that they're playing. So, and if that's the case, a lot of it is due to D'Angelo Luila, who granted wasn't exactly great off the tee. He missed a couple of conversions, but man, he's been so fun to watch. He is a little bowling ball when he goes running with the ball. So again, it's amazing this is his first try of the season. Seattle, though, does come back with a couple of tries, including the very first try of one Stephen Crimp, who is a U.S. American-born player, was with the Anthem Rugby Carolina, transferred over to Seattle. It's amazing that he's gotten a try in his season, so congrats to him. And then, unfortunately, in the second half, Tion Luz from San Diego was trying to kick the rugby ball soccer style and completely missed and kicked a Utah player right in the face. Of course, that's a red card. So San Diego down a player. But despite that, San Diego kept coming back. This game was tied a couple of times in the game. They were trading back tries back and forth. There was this really weird try that San Diego got. It was a grubber kick. I felt that there was some sort of obstruction being made by against Jordan Trainer of the Utah Warriors that prevented him from possibly stopping Vile Halu from scoring, but they allowed that score to matter. So again, the game was tied at the very end, but in the end, Utah was able to score the very last second try to sneak the win away. It was a very exciting game, big win for for Utah over San Diego, and very important because that puts Utah in first place in the Western Conference. And keeps them pretty high up there. They are the first team this season to win 8 games. No other team has done that so far. And like I said, they are looking really, really hot and very, very dominant. So, a lot of movement in this power rankings. With that being said, let's go over our Super Brew Pick'em results. And congratulations, I'm very excited to say this. Congratulations, Julie EGW, third time. She has picked up the golden cap. Very impressive performance, 10 points out of a possible 17. I think this is the highest percentage possibility that somebody has gotten. So really, really great performance, Julie GW. And then a shout out to Villa Farrell, a friend of the YouTube channel, came so close to the golden cap, 9.5. And then, of course, Lady Juliet, our two dominant women in this competition, showing back up on the top, 7.75, just a little bit ahead of Jahaigo, who I haven't said his name in a while in the season. And then at the very end, USA League and Union fan, my boy Coop, 6.75, rounding out the top 5. Now, unfortunately, Sunshine does get the wooden spoon in this. Now, because of these results, congratulations to Julie EGW. You are our new #1 player. First time since week number 3 when CrossFox was the dominant king. CrossFox, hell of a run. The season's not over yet, but man, just congratulations to Julie EGW because she has been trailing CrossFox. I told you she was breathing down his neck, and finally with the win and such a dominant performance, she is actually above CrossFox by 5.33 points. It is a big lead, but again, it just takes one good week to change things. So CrossFox is not out of the running yet, and Julie GW can't rely on her laurels just yet. A lot of things can happen from now until the end of the season. But CrossFox is #2, slides down a spot with 49 points. Serene Sarai is still at #3, 48.58. So he is just a little bit behind CrossFox now. And then Vila Farrell, because of his great performance this week, he jumps up 10 spots. He didn't even get the golden hat. He still jumps up 10 spots to 4th place. Phenomenal job, Vila Farrell. 46 points. And then Tex jumps up a spot, 45.91. Looking at the bottom 5, Frisco Flame unfortunately drops down a spot, 224, 36.58. And then our bottom 4, pretty much the same. Leon, Sunshine, GMV Rugby, and Melvin Rocker. So, that's our video. It's been an exciting season of rugby. It'll be interesting to see how Storm Week has affected for the rest. Like I mentioned before, when we talk about our Week 12 preview, this is going to be the first week where things are a little bit mellow. But it's a lull before the Storm, because then from 13 on to 16, I believe it is, it's again craziness with the Storm Week. So, as always, thank you very much for checking out my video. I appreciate the support, and I'll see you on the pitch.